It's been a while since I've properly spoken about Destiny. Why is that? Usually I would do a summary video of each act and then an overall summary of the season, yet I didn't do that for the episodes. I barely touched on Echoes outside the first week. Revenant I did a retrospective at the very end, and Heresy I only did 2 reviews. One for the opening 24 hours and the other touching on Act 1 as a whole, both praising what was delivered. But then I didn't touch Act 2 or 3 when it rolled out, or any of the build-up to the Edge of Fate until now, and I wasn't sure why. I did still play the game. I experienced the episodic stories, but played less and less until I would only log on once a week to check what was in the Bright Dust section of the store, maybe replay a campaign mission or do a patrol, and then log off. I've been trying to put a finger on why that is, and I think I've got it. I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting my hopes up and then having them let down. Heresy was a delightful surprise, don't get me wrong, but so much has happened since then that just makes me question why I keep going forward with this franchise. So, let's have a little chat, shall we? I joined the Destiny community on the 20th of June 2015, just 2 months and 26 days before the release of The Taken King. I've been hooked ever since. I played for a total of 3,604.93333 hours. That's about 2,952 hours and 56 minutes in Destiny 2, with 652 hours and 52 minutes in Destiny 1. Suffice to say, I've been around. I've seen the many, and I mean many, ups and downs of this community and game. From the content droughts, to the launch of Curse of Osiris, to the backpedaling from all the progress made by the end of D1 into the launch of D2, to the highs of Forsaken and the Witch Queen, to the lows of Lightfall in the episodes. The Destiny community and Bungie itself have been through the ringer, for both faults and non-faults of their own. For a time, a pattern had been established through the Light and Dark saga. Terrible development and release cycle for the base game, 2 bad and mid DLCs released in between the major expansions, major expansion drops and injects hope back into the community, mid or terrible follow-up expansion, and throughout the cycle we get told by Bungie that we're listening. Hire and fire and get mixed into some controversies, and boom, you've got a standard Bungie game cycle. I would argue this was somewhat broken by the time of Shadowkeep, when Bungie introduced Seasons and broke off from Activision, solidifying that there wouldn't be a D3 to restart the cycle. But also, there would be a change in the delivery of content going forward. Seasons have arguably been a big miss in story delivery once the obvious pattern was established for how we would be drip-fed content throughout a season. Some seasons were okay or really good, while others were plain terrible. We were told countless times that things would change, but they never really did. Then came Lightfall, killing a large majority of the player base interacting with the game and underperforming according to Sony. Then, as the final shape was being announced, we learned about episodes and how they would replace seasons. Safe to say, they didn't change much at all. We got 3 episodes between the final shape and Edge of Fate: Echoes, Revenant, and Heresy. Allegedly, these would tie up loose ends, and Heresy would launch us into the new saga. They didn't. They introduced new problems. Revenant was the only one to properly tie up anything, but that was only because we finally killed Fickrul in a convoluted manner and Aramis just fucked off with the Echo. Echoes introduced a new threat and ended on a meh. Heresy was arguably the only good episode, as it brought back some actual mystery of the world in the form of the Lord of Every Nothing and its dire taken army. By the end of Heresy, though, we never properly transitioned into the next saga. Instead, we were given a nice community puzzle and a cutscene at the tail end of everything, completely unrelated to the story of the actual episode. And that brings us to the Edge of Fate, which, as of writing the script, launches a week from today. This is the next big saga in the Destiny story, the continuation of our journey after defeating the Witness, and the end of the Light and Dark saga. Yet, I, and many others, don't feel the thrill of a new launch, and I believe I know why. Destiny has always been big on the marketing. Fancy trailers, insightful vidocs, and an intriguing story to pull us in. You'd think that would be the case with the Edge of Fate. You know, the new saga and expansion centered around the Nine, one of the factions we barely understand to this day. Yet I've been seeing many people cancelling or not even making their pre-orders. Out of all the guys I played Destiny with, only 2 of us remain. Some left after the final shape because they wanted to see the saga to the end, which is fair. But others tried to stick around post-Light and Dark saga, but quickly dropped the game as Bungie fumbled step after step, bringing us to where we are now, with no plans of returning. I've sunk hours and, frankly, too much money into this game, yet this is the first time I found myself not excited for a new entry in the universe. the marketing for this expansion has certainly not helped calm the waters. In my humble Destiny rant-sona opinion, the couch streams just don't work for building hype, especially when both dev streams mainly talk about the free quality of life changes being made to the game and barely touch on what we're actually paying for. I understand more about the portal than I do about what's available to do on Kepler. Vidocs were always straight to the point and way better at building hype than a couple of devs waffling on a couch and sharing arguably corny jokes to fill the air. I'm not against dev streams existing. I just don't believe they should be the main point of marketing, especially for a brand new saga. There were two main dev streams, the first being more about the portal and the changes across the game as a whole. The issue is that we already knew all the things we were told on the stream because Bungie gave content creators access to all the information they were going to share. So that stream was ultimately a waste of time. The only new thing we learned was about heavy crossbows coming to the game. The second stream was advertised as focusing more on Kepler and what we would do there. The stream itself didn't start until 28 minutes in, and it began with a trailer. So the actual dev talks began at 29 minutes and 50 seconds. Meaning out of the 1 hour, 25 minute, and 55 second length stream, only 56 minutes and 6 seconds were spent actually talking about what's to come. And only about 15 minutes were used to discuss Kepler. The rest was, you guessed it, about the bloody portal. Kepler is being relegated to the portal rather than being added to the destination tab, which is a massive miss for me. I don't have an issue with the portal housing everything else being added, but a staple of this game is the evolving destination map, and it just looks cool. My favorite moment on the destination tab was during Lightfall's campaign. When beginning and or playing through the campaign, the map showed the pyramids surrounding the Traveler, but by the end of it, after the Witness opened the portal, the map changed to reflect that. It made it feel alive, like we were looking at it in real time. Now, with Kepler, we won't get that. Guardian ranks are all being reset to rank 2, but Bungie never clarified if that meant we would be losing the extra loadout slots or not. If we are, that is a huge mistake. There was no mention of patrols or proper public events being scattered across Kepler, only that we'd be getting something akin to Wellspring 2.0 that shows up on the map like a public event. There are also no new strikes or PvP maps, not that Bungie has cared about PvP in, well, forever. Bungie also teased that we'd be getting something called an epic raid in Ash and Iron. Could that mean the return of Wrath? I doubt it. Exotics are also being dropped with tier 3 stats, meaning any current exotic you have will significantly be better than the ones attained during the Edge of Fate. Hi there, Editing Fawn here. After writing and originally recording the script, I realized there had been a few new bits of info that needed to be added to drive home my point. As Past Me was saying, exotic armor isn't dropping in the tier 5 slot. The stats for exotics in the Edge of Fate will be capped at 63. Additionally, Bungie is increasing Infusion and Glimmer acquisition costs, while also removing Glimmer sources, such as most destination materials that could be traded in. The vendor rep is also going away, effectively making the core playlist redundant to utilize. Also, get this, the Brave Arsenal from Onslaught is no longer going to be focusable at Zavala nor obtained from the activity. It's now all being moved over to Xur, rendering Onslaught a pointless activity to remain in the game. It's unclear if you can focus at Xur or if it will now become random drops from his engrams. I hope it is the former. Remember how day 1 raids were challenging? And everyone was coming together to figure them out and press through? Yeah, forget that. This time around, as soon as World First is completed, normal mode will unlock during the 48-hour window. So if you want to get a day 1 completion, simply just wait until there's a World's First completion, hop into a normal mode, learn all the mechanics, go back into contest, and mostly breeze through the once-a-year challenge. It really seems like this expansion and its changes are solely being made to make the game and the grind a bit more of a chore to sit through, while the rewards are really not worthy of your time, while also trying to then cater to new players. Problem being, the new light experience is utter shite, and there's no friendly way of introducing people to the mechanics and the world they're diving into. This has been a problem for a while, and Bungie just never seems to properly try and fix it, always slapping a half-assed tutorial together, and then never fixing the issues that arose from that. I understand power creep exists, but kicking us all the way back to the curb and then making it a lot harder to get back to where we were is not the play. Nor is charging $40 for something with little replay value, at least according to the marketing. Also, where's David Samuel, my beloved? Did he get laid off? I want him back. Okay, let's continue on. Take it away, Past Me. Something I found interesting, and if someone in the comments wants to cross-reference this, please do, is that we are paying the same price for a big expansion, but we have now lost 1 or 2 raids a year, 1 or 2 dungeons a year, seasonal content, strikes, at least in this expansion, PvP modes and maps, and 1 or more new subclasses. In the Edge of Fate, we're getting a new destination, a new raid, and that's kind of it. We're getting a ton of game-wide changes and some small season content in between expansions, but those are free, so I'm not having to pay for that. I have mixed feelings about the Samus Ball, aka Matterspark. Bungie themselves have stated that this new ability is destination locked, similar to Deep Sight, and doesn't really do much to change the gameplay. In the case of Matterspark, you are actively losing the ability to shoot your guns, one of the main pillars of this game, in favor of rolling around and tickling your enemies with electricity. Our main foes of this expansion are the House of Exile and the Coral Vex. Again. I love reskins! No new enemies, just more reskins. Well, I say that, but we're getting a new fallen enemy type and a new Vex unit. The Exiles get a Vandal with a jetpack, and the Coral Vex get a swarm of explosive drones. Yay. Also, the Exiles just shouldn't exist here on Kepler at this point in the timeline. I know Bungie released some lore in the TWAB last week trying to explain this contradiction, but it still doesn't work. It's been clear from the start that the Exiles were house formed in Seoul by the outcasts of the other houses occupying the system following Twilight Gap, that they followed no Kel nor Archon. Unless we end up getting a decent explanation in their part of the new story, it might have been better to invent a completely new house or use an old house name we've yet to see in-game, or are unsure of their fate since the Whirlwind. Like what happened with the House of Rain. Guess only time will tell on that front. I really want Destiny to be in a good spot, especially when Bungie is properly planning out this saga, unlike the previous one. But there's no hype here, man. What am I actually paying for? Why should I want to play? Where is Wrath of the Machine? I still want to be covering both Edge of Fate and Renegades and all the content in between. But I won't be playing as much as I used to. At this point, I'd rather grind Borderlands 4, but with the announcement of Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox in August, I might turn my attention to that. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, whether they agree or disagree with what I've said today. Let's get some discussions going. I've been Fawn Umbrella 612, and I hope you have an amazing day. Stay frosty.